Howdy! Welcome to the Whiskey Butler. I'm your host, Wesley Butler, here to serve you a little whiskey wisdom. It is our first episode of 2023, so welcome back. I hope everyone had great holiday season, great new year, and I hope you had a great January. Now, for those of you who may have been participating in the dry January, welcome back to Imbibing Upon Wonderful Spirits. I thought about doing dry January this year. I thought about it for a hot second, and then I was like, no, I'll pass. I mean, I really said that's a hard pass, but, I passed on dry January. But look, I've had a rough January between work and travel and some personal things going on at home and travel and work. January was kind of rough, but one of the things that made January really rough, I checked off another thing off my bucket list. You want to know what that was? I got deposed for the first time. Yes, the Whiskey Butler had to be a witness, and I was deposed. And that alone is cause for reveling in some whiskey. So we're going to get this episode started right here. No objections from the studio audience. No objections from myself. We're going to get at it. Okay, so now, first things first, let's talk about if you've ever been deposed, and I hope you haven't, but if you ever have been, you realize it's not like the movies, right? You don't have this witty repartee like, oh, I object, you're such a whatever, I'm just going to walk out of this thing right now. No, it's 7 hours of your life that you can't get back, and you're sitting there, and it's like, is your name Wesley Butler? Yes, it is. Do you live in the state of Maryland? Yes, I do. And then they hit you with a bunch of other questions that I won't get into right now, but hopefully, if you ever do get deposed, you have some great lawyers like I did, John and Janet. Hope you're out there watching. I appreciate you. This episode's dedicated to you. So we're going to get into the whiskey. So I felt like since I had never been deposed before, I felt like for this episode, since I'm dedicating it to that purpose, that I would drink a whiskey that I had never had before. So I went out and found one. Actually, I didn't go out and find one. It was a gift. But we like gifts. I actually seen this whiskey in liquor stores before, but I had never actually tried it. And sometimes when you don't try something and the price tag's a little on the high side, you're like, maybe I'll go towards something I know. But since this was a gift, it's a great opportunity for me to try it. This bow tie is also a gift. Appreciate you, Tasha and Ann, for both giving me a bow tie from Bourbon Cousins. So wearing that right now. But back to the whiskey. The whiskey is from the 1-8 Distilling Company here in DC. It's not part of their core series, what they consider their core series. It's their experimental series. And this is Untitled Whiskey number 19. I mean, just keep it simple, right? Just keep it simple. This is the 19th one we made. We're trying it out. Let me turn it this way. Okay, so 1-8 Distilling here in DC. As you can see, our set has changed a little bit from the holiday episode. The reef is gone. The poinsettia is gone. And I figured since we were talking about, a whiskey that's made here in the district, Washington, D.C., which is not a state for all of you out there, I figured since we were talking about a whiskey made in the District of Columbia, I'd put some District of Columbia things here. So we got a couple presidents here. We got DC's best free agent signing, in my opinion, for the Washington Nationals. Max Scherzer, bobblehead, season ticket holder. Shout out to Max Scherzer. 2 no-hitters while he was here and a World Series championship. I think he won a couple Cy Youngs. Proved me wrong because I thought he was getting overpaid when he first got here. But I'm rambling. Let's get back to the whiskey. Okay, so we got Untitled Whiskey here, 1-8 Distilling. So let's talk about it. So, haven't opened it yet. Like I said, it was a gift. I was saving it for a great occasion. This is as good as occasion as any. So we'll open it. Now, this Untitled, their experimental series, they do a lot of different things in this experimental series. This whiskey, however, I don't know if you've ever had it, but if you haven't, this on paper, it sounds like it could be really, really interesting. Okay, it's 48% alcohol. That's 96 proof for you math wizards out there. So it's not what I would consider an entry level whiskey, right? I consider entry level whiskeys anything in the 80s. Okay, so anything in the 80s, I consider that entry level. This is 96, so if you were familiar with, my love for Bottled and Bond, if you'd seen all those episodes during the 2022 holiday season, you know that that's 100. But hey, look, Blanton's is 93, and I don't hear anybody complaining about Blanton's at 93. So this 96 proof, it should be okay from a proof period, right? What I could find on this is that this is and the tag says it, but this is an 11-year-old bourbon. So we know our rules of bourbon. That means it's at least 51% corn in new charred barrels made here in the USA. But I couldn't find anything about the mash bill or anything about, what actually went into the bourbon. So that lets me know one of two things. One, it's either a sourced bourbon, sourced meaning that the liquid was distilled somewhere else and they bought it from them and then they blended it on their own. Or this is actually a blend of a bunch of different bourbons. And if you're going to call it an 11-year bourbon, then that means the youngest of the bourbons that you blended was 11 years. But it could mean that there was like a 15 or 17 or some older bourbons in there. But if you're going to call it 11-year, you got to go by the youngest in there. So that's an 11-year bourbon. So don't know if this has any wheat, rye, oat. Know it's got corn in it, but don't know what the other things in it or whatever. But that's fine. One of the unique things about this, and it's probably why it's in their experimental series, is that it's been finished in 5 different kinds of casks. Now, finishing in different kinds of casks is not new in the whiskey industry, right? Clearly, all Scotch is finished in, or aged and finished in different barrels, right? Bourbon, it's got to be in the newly charred barrels, but there's so many bourbons out there finished in rum casks, finished in sherry casks, port, so on and so forth. So finishing in a cask is not new. Finishing in 5 different casks, now that is stepping out on a limb. What are those 5 different casks? So we have Kirschwasser Sherry Brandy, an American rum, a Bordeaux-style red, a Amontillado Sherry, and a Muscat wine. Okay, so that's what went into making this bourbon here, and this is what we're going to drink to celebrate being deposed for the first time and hopefully the only time in our life. Let's drink. So for those of you coming off a dry January, if you don't have any Untitled 19 at your house, pour whatever you got. Pour whatever you got. Drink it along here with me. I hope if you started dry January, I hope you made it all the way through to the end. And if you didn't make it all the way through to the end, I hope there was a really good reason that you didn't. If not, better luck next year. Cheers. So on the nose, you can smell a little of the sherry. At least I can smell a little of the sherry. I'm thinking there's going to be some fruitiness to this taste. We got cherry brandy, we got Bordeaux style red, we got sherry in there. I don't know about this Muscat wine though. Hopefully that was the least amount thing that they aged in. Muscat wine, I mean, come on. The name, I don't have any Muscat wine here in my house. Ooh. Okay. That's different. Told you I tasted the fruit or I smelled the fruit at the beginning. I feel like right when the initial sip, you get some of the rum, right? You taste a little bit of the rum finish there on the initial sip, but as it begins to go down, I can taste some of the cherry, some of the sherry. Well, I smell the sherry, but you can taste the cherry. But the first sip I taste, I was like, is this a whiskey or is this a rum? That's the first thing I get. Yeah. I feel like the third thing I'm tasting is whatever Muscat wine tastes like. I don't know what Muscat wine tastes like, but it might taste like what I'm tasting in this whiskey. It's not bad, but it's certainly different. You know what I don't taste in this? Usually if you're going to drink a bourbon, not a whiskey, but a bourbon, you're going to get, like a traditional bourbon is going to have vanilla and caramel and that candy flavor to it. That is not what you taste in here at all. With it being 11 years old, it's certainly on the smoothed out, so nothing really fires at you. You don't really get any sort of zingers. At least I don't get any sort of zingers. It is 96 proof, so Like I said, it's not entry level, so I wouldn't call it hot, but you can certainly taste the flavors in this whiskey, but you don't get any of that traditional bourbon flavor, vanilla, caramel. You don't get any of that in this. So and for some reason, I taste popcorn. And I haven't had any popcorn. I mean, I love popcorn, right? One of the things I love, salty things, potato chips and popcorn, two of my favorite love snacks, followed by pretzels and peanuts, salted peanuts. So that's 4. But I taste some popcorn in this. I don't know. Maybe that's the Muscat wine. I don't know. This is interesting. So what I'm gonna say is, if you're coming home from a hard day's work after you've been deposed, because it's work, okay? Getting deposed is work, all right? And if I wasn't on camera and if you were here, I'd tell you, well, I couldn't tell you all about it because that's confidential, but I'd tell you about the whole day. But I'm not going to do that here because, well, that would just be breaking some things that I was told by my fabulous lawyers that I can't do. So all I'm going to do is tell you that this Untitled whiskey, number 19, very interesting flavor. No objections. No objections from the audience. No objections from the audience. I think it's a good. I think it would be a good purchase. Now, this is certainly going to run you over $100 because this isn't in the normal 1.8 distilling core series. So you basically, if you can find a bottle that's still out there, then you're going to have to get it. So you're going to have to be willing to pay. You're going to have to be willing to pay at least $3 for an experimental whiskey. Don't know what your palate is, so maybe you'll end up liking it. Maybe you won't. Can't say for sure. I'm excited to have this in my whiskey library here at the house. I did read that 1.8 Distilling is coming out with a bottled and bond whiskey on March 3rd, 2023. And like I said, I like me some bottled and bond. So I have a feeling I'm going to be signed up to find out where I can go purchase that. But in the meantime, welcome back to Drinking Spirits, all of you from Dry January. If you weren't participating in Dry January, keep on keeping on with whatever you were drinking in January. And thank you for watching The Whiskey Butler. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed. But make sure you click the bell when you do subscribe so you're always updated on future episodes. And a future episode that's coming, the Super Bowl, baby. Oh yeah, got something great planned for the Super Bowl. So be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, check you later. Bye.